Oh, hello. Let's use the camera. Have you fallen for the clickbait? Hello? Let me bring this up here. I need to sort my screen out here. Like, this is crazy. Save. Yes. I probably broke my thumbnail, but anyway. Do we need that? No. Do we need that? No. Confirm. Set later. Actually, never. Sorry, guys. I rushed into this and I still have like 500 windows open. Ah, there's one important email. Ah, nice. Okay. So news for everybody who ordered the RCC seat with us. They are sent this week. He already wants the next order. I'd like to get the old one out the way. So, okay. So how are you doing, guys? How have you picked up? How have you picked up anything? Or no, how have you picked up EVO? Swallowed my own cockiness. Okay. So let me make this here a little bigger and I can also read the chat. Then there are 500 tabs currently open. I don't think we need any of those. I also need to restart EVO because I'm in the development build that I cannot show. Not because it's so different, but because there are probably a few details in there that are not released yet. So gotta keep it tidy here. So I just downgraded the version basically. I don't know, the 30,080 Ti is probably not too bad. Like, if you turn down the settings, this is not a bad card. Nvidia makes you believe it's very bad, but I think your issue is that you don't have any DLSS. So that's gonna be costly, probably. Yeah, I think I mean, of course, that the game has some issues with crashes and bugs and all sorts of things, but I'm really confused about the vast or the huge spread in opinion. Like, I don't get how some people can say the force feedback is awful, and then there are others who are saying this is the best force feedback ever. But I guess this is how sim racing just is. You have that in all games. Yeah, for example, the thing is now there's no time to load up the car because it immediately turns. For the force feedback has not changed from AC to ACC to AC EVO, or if anything barely. What changes is the tire, and this is what you feel in the end. So always got to keep that in mind. But I kind of agree, but also the cars that we have, what load are they going to produce? It's mostly road cars. And I guess some of the race cars, they just miss the caster slider. If you increase the caster on these cars, they are going to be vastly different very quickly. So maybe it's part 2, the setup's being locked there. How realistic is the braking in AC EVO? Yeah. It's perfectly fine. Like, you can try 100% braking in the AMG GT2 and you'll not make any corner at all. Which it's kind of weird to measure it in this way, because these cars are like the GT2s, especially, they are even more gentlemen than the GT3 cars. They're supposed to be driven by people who shouldn't sit in cars, basically. So these systems are designed to bail them out of jail, right? So they will be very good, and it's fine to ride the ABS and trigger it and work with it. The electronics can react much faster than your foot or hands can. Is there an ABS bug in the 296? Even worth it off the thing, doesn't stop at all. Do you mean one of the licenses? No, you didn't have access to these yet, right? I think it's in the wet, perhaps. See, this is the spread I mean. So Stoney is saying EVO is much easier to get into than ACC. It's more arcade in comparison. Arcade? That's weird. What about it is arcade? The AC and the Hyundai is not realistic. TC feels good. Why ABS doesn't make sense? Dry running. Turned ABS off, but still curves in hugely? Curves? Turns in? Like, the thing is, the car will bail you out of, kind of keep you out of the sandpit if you just brake 100%, but your brake point needs to be much earlier. And also, the car's not rotating if you just push the brake down. But it's the same in ACC, you can't 100% brake in ACC either. Unless you set the entire car around it as well. And go with minimum brake bias on the 296 GT3 or something, and then you throw it in the corner and you keep 100% brake and quickly release it, and then the front tire will grip before the rear does. It keeps this perfect slide, which only works on the tire model. But this is a very kind of unique situation. It's weird, because I find in ACC the cars are not fighting you at all. They are very calm and sit on the road and don't do anything unless you force it. And I feel in ACF the cars just move around much more. They're much more agile, react to every input. What do you mean you can't turn ABS off? I think you can. You just need to bind the button to AB, like the dial. Should work. Worked when I tested earlier. Let me actually see if does that show the game here? Probably not, right? Need to select EVO. There we go. Do we? Yes. Hey, Michael. Hey, everyone, by the way. I see there with the South Park logo. I kind of agree. It is also my issue that ever since I have EVO, and of course I have it a little longer than you guys, but of course in that kind of good driving state, it isn't for as long, maybe a month or two or so. That I find it hard to go back to other sims because it's somehow captivating and very natural to drive. I wish we were much further, of course, and we would just have the setups all open and things like that, and everything would be dialed into perfection. But still, already the cars are somehow so much more alive that, I don't know, going anywhere else gives me a dull feeling. So it's, I don't know. I get that notion, at least. It's understeery compared to ACC. That is probably because of the setups and because of road cars that are, well, tend to be understeery. And you really have to slow down in road cars. They are not. I mean, I can show you. You won't see much understeer outside of the front wheel driven cars. Definitely. I guess that will be a good track here. I don't. The academy is not open, is it? No, not available. We have to wait for the thing to come. Ha, Moritz, I was looking for you. I tagged you on Discord, but you didn't answer because you gave me that hint with a Cup Porsche since you drove it in real life, and I wanted to hear your opinion on it. You probably have to change the setup a little bit because it's too conservative right now. But I think once you give it some camber on the front, give it some front range, dial the brake bias back a little, just standard stuff really, then the thing starts to turn, no? But just about well, just about enough, but you never make the rear step out on entry much. And then it's kind of the thing that you mentioned to me was that in first or second gear, maybe you can be aggressive with the throttle and it will rotate just about. But then in third and fourth gear, this becomes even less. And in fourth gear, you'd rather have understeer. And in third, you can really smash it and just about get some slip on the rear. And I feel the car really gets that across so far. I think the Academy comes back when the back-end test was successful yesterday, but I'm not informed. I don't know, iRacing doesn't like coasting middle of the corner. When you coast in iRacing, it becomes understeer. In iRacing, you always need load on the tires, and I feel we don't have that load sensitivity in EVO. And hey, Ricardo, how are you doing? Yes, more, it's nice. 296 stock setup is the best so far. Okay. I wonder what... Well, the menu really needs to be a little narrowed down here for... the 1080p resolution. Yeah, but the 296 is a crazy road car. I think in general there's agreement kinda that currently EVO is a tiny bit too fast in general. Gerhard, wo mache ich das denn überhaupt hier, Übersetzer? Is there auto translation somewhere on YouTube that I can actually set up? Why is this like a Christmas song here? That's awful. Where are my buttons at? No, no, no. Allow automatic captions. So it should work, the automatic captions, but it could be that automatic captions don't work when I'm in low latency mode. This could be. Yeah, no, I think the capture stuff only works when you have some latency allowed. So Gerhard, ich habe gerade geschaut, aber ich sehe es hier jetzt gerade nicht in den Settings. Mit Übersetzung. Ich glaube, es geht nur, wenn der Stream wenn der Stream etwas mehr Delay hat. Okay, let me read some more chat here. Because you're very active, I like that. Academy works for me at the moment. Yeah, you probably are still on the Steam branch that has it, right? Steam capable, blah blah blah. Car feels good. Car is too fast. Yes, I think it's probably 1-2 seconds or so. You were wrong. For me, Academy is working. Yes. But yeah, I'm not sure. Shall we? I mean, we can do that. I can just opt into the beta real quick. It's just gonna be a couple seconds of download. If it's there, then we can use it, I guess. Betas with backend. Let's see. It's updating. Or is it not? No, it's not. Why not? No, now it's removed. So that's the problem. It's not actually there. When you were still in, you can still use it, but once you opted out, you can't go back in. I did the mistake of opting out. Okay, let me scroll a little. M4 is not good at all. Maximilian, was haben wir denn? Was würde dir da fehlen bei dem Auto? Oder ist zu viel Grip, zu wenig? S&M tutorials on ACE for different cars. I mean, can you ask specific questions? Because from my perspective, sometimes it's hard to understand how or what information people would need, because for me personally, you just drive the same as any other game, like the whole principle stuff, everything's just the same. Some cars feel more polished than others. Lotus is great, for example. The Ferrari is not good. Well, yeah, I think there's also a big part of that is also setup, and that the road tire is kind of further in development than the slick tire is, for example. So you will feel that. AC Discord is broken for me. Well, don't go there. What I don't quite understand is when I drive road cars in the academy, it upshifts like with a DCT, but downshifts like a manual. Yes, there's something that I have kind of going through all the cars have highlighted, that the downshift is often with the clutch if you have auto clutch enabled. So there's something with the DCT cars where it suddenly acts like a normal clutch. Yeah, but it's kind of a bug and should be on its way out sooner or later, hopefully. Are you happy with how curbs feel in FFB? To me, they are a bit dead. So what I want to tell you is, so we probably have to take it to Laguna Seca. I want to show you something. Yeah, the thing is that I'm trying to get on top a bit of the feedback that we're getting from the entire spectrum, and trying to weigh it a bit and narrow down to what's reasonable feedback, where there could just be different settings that impact people, or find out what hardware people are using, and then see if someone else with the same hardware has the same opinion, or if it's split as much on the same thing there. But I've saw people who are saying, like, on a G29, this is the best force feedback they ever had. While I have people on the Simucube 2 saying this is the worst they ever felt. So it's really tricky. The Rider, ob der Freischaltgrind in der Vollversion Pflicht sein wird. Also ich denke nicht, dass sie das zur Pflicht machen. Es wird vielleicht irgendwelche Einschränkungen geben, aber man sollte schon Zugang zu allem haben. The drifting is weird. It's very easy to lose traction, but the higher the angle gets, the car suddenly grips a lot and cancels the drift on its own. So you want to do drifting? I think it might be down to the tire that's on the car. I think the BMW now has the hypercar tire by default. If you go down to the supercar tire or the road tire, I think the drifting should come much more easy or much more steady. And I think the other bit is that while you see the temperature change, the temperature impact on the grip level is not actually quite active yet. So once that is active and you do the drifting, the rear grip actually gets worse with the temperature going up. So probably the drift will become easier to maintain going down the road. Hola to Spain, I guess. Gamepad FFB is fine. Okay, let's go back into the game then. Do we need to talk roadmap? Probably not, right? Everybody saw the roadmap, I guess, by now. He's already waffling for 18 minutes. It's a chatting stream, Tortellini. Huh. The higher the drift angle, the more traction you get. Okay. Well, something to look into with a longitudinal grip, probably. Can we get a good track instead of Coda? Was it announced, Kota? Oh, it was, right? It's a really good track. And wasn't there... Yeah, was there Fuji announced? So, driving. We wanted to talk curbs, so I want to take to Laguna Seca and show something. I wonder if we'll actually see it, though. Let's find out. So we're gonna take a race car probably. Well, that's not how it works. ABS variant, I guess. Watkins Glen, also not bad. I have to say, actually, and it's controversial now that I think about it, but it's weird that Americans, being all about oval, they do have good road racing tracks. You didn't get proper frames. Simracing are new. If you want to check out, check out my Discord. I think you are there. Check the EVO channel. Scroll up a bit to the post that Robert did on VR, because he kind of figured it out, I think. Do you have Kuno's ears about UX? So if you want to report anything, like you can put it here, but I'm not going to forward it. Just put anything that's actual issue kind of or feedback stuff on the forum. This is where they have eyes. So now I'm actually not going to do anything on the setup here. But I also want to let you know, like, we're going to talk about steer ratio at some point, because there's something that changed from ACC over to EVO. One thing is we don't need the aggressive steer ratio in EVO anymore, because now the tire actually responds when you steer compared to ACC. And the other thing is that we don't get so much steer lock on tire level with lower steer ratio. This functionality has been changed for the future. So yeah, I mentioned the soft lock this several times. I'm pretty sure it's gonna come sooner or later, but I cannot tell you when sooner or later actually is. Then final thing, it helps so much just putting OBS in the taskbar, because Windows throws so much of a tantrum if it has to show that window. Steer ratio, no, in ACC, steer ratio was not personal preference, because, like right now, let me actually, you see my mouse, right? You can see the mouse. When you change the steer ratio in ACC, you would essentially, you increase the maximum lock of the tire. So it wouldn't just turn the 20 degrees that the tire has here, but it would actually increase up to, I don't know, 30 degrees or something. So essentially in ACC, you had more counter steering capabilities in the car with lower steer lock than the car actually has. And that was a flaw, and that is solved. Now, the amount of lock degrees that the tire is going to have is the static value. And if you change the steer ratio, then you only change the maximum steering your steering wheel actually is going to have. And that is going to change things quite drastically in terms of how much drifting you can do in race cars before losing it, because you're simply running out of rotation on the steering wheel. So we wanted to talk about curbs, so let's actually go to a curb. Yeah, the 296 still has like 40 or 45 degrees in ACC, right? I mean, it's fine to have it on minimum value, because in ACC it helps. And in AC EVO you can have it when you kind of still want to have... Sorry, I forgot about the music here. In AC EVO you can still change your steer ratio and it will become more aggressive, but you're not getting more total counter steering capabilities or total tire lock capabilities. So what I wanted to show you is, I'm just a tiny bit on the curb here, okay? And you can see there's a bit of impact on the steering wheel, and I'm gonna have a tiny bit of vibration on... Wait, actually, let's go. Do we have chase cam here? Not quite, do we? We only have this one. So let's go on this side here. Let's go like this. So here, when you put the tire on the curb only a little bit, you're not getting a lot of feedback, because the curb is actually flat in the beginning. Only if you go over here, you will feel more force feedback because the steps in the curb are higher, okay? So driving down here on the curb, you're not getting much feedback. Driving up on the curb here all the way, you're getting much more feedback because the teeth are higher, okay? This is not on all tracks. I don't know, I just noticed it here. Just wanted to show you, right? I mean, you can see it here from the camera wobbling around. And if we just go to the beginning of the curb, this is less. Anyway. We have no, yeah, we don't have actual free cameras right now. They're going to be more, of course, like in ACC and things like that. And you can hear it in the amount of the noise as well, depending on how much we go onto that curb. Just a little. Well, I definitely have it in the wheel, though. Is there Fiat Punto at least? Not that I know. Minimizing the shaking. Which shaking do you mean? On the curb? Tortellini. Maybe. Guys, let me show this to you one more time. Shall we go to Imola chicane? Lots of history there. Not the shaking in the car, it feels too much grip. I'm used to iRacing. If you have the developer ear, the birds flying is a bit overkill. There's a flock of birds like once a lap. Maybe it's not that important, huh? Yeah, I think there's like the... So what you have to know about this entire engine of the game is when a developer studio decides to write their own engine from scratch, okay, then this means everything. And when you're developing the game in Unreal, for example, then there's a lot of elements you can already tap into in terms of audio as well, for example. And you have a lot of features that you can just use and say, hey, this is reverb and this does this and this does that. And in your own engine, you also have to develop all this from scratch. And this is why there's a lot of things still that don't feel quite right. Like in some places you'll have reverb and others you won't, and there's no transition, it's just on and off kinda. No, this is not an updated AC engine, like by far not. Like this is DirectX 12, all the shit that is possible is trying to be there, right? With yeah, given reasonable performance, which is not there yet. I agree. Well, it's graphics, sound, and everything engine. Of course, I think in some cases you use tools that are there in certain departments. I think all the games use fmod, for example, to do sound stuff, which I have no idea about. But of course, there are still things you have to do in your engine regardless. So just for Moritz, I think I do wanna do some setup things just so we can explore a bit how the car actually responds. Let me put the tires maybe and the speedo here. But let's go to the pits, do a tiny bit of setup changes just to make the car rotate ever so slightly more and more consistently and things like that. I like the feel of the road tires in EVO. Yeah, we'll go to that. I mean, I don't really follow a plan here, but I just want to do a couple things. Now that Morris is there and he's very time limited, let's use the time while Morris is here and show him how to set up the Porsche here, where it's probably nicer to drive. Somewhere around that, I guess. I'd even go negative to a tiny bit. Because the car is so planted. And we definitely need setup saving, because I keep doing this every time I play the game. Bit annoying. But it's gonna come sooner or later, I suppose. Damper wise, just a couple clicks on the front. Just make it dive a bit more and prevent it from coming up as easily out of the suspension. Rake never hurts. Really does. But we don't... I'm not going extremes here, okay? Are the curbs 3D scanned like iRacing? Well, iRacing started 3D scanning curbs 10 years after the game came out or something. I don't know. This is a laser scan. The curbs are included in that, I believe. AA blurriness. The FFB sliders, ignore them all except dynamic damping and damper gain and set those to 0 as well. And that's it. Set everything to 0 except the general gain. You need the racing license for the car? No more. It's go to settings, gameplay HUD, set the game to offline. The lowest slider, set it to offline, then you should be able to drive everything. So the one thing that we get in the Porsche is once you go onto the power, you get the rear lock, you get the differential to lock on the rear. And so it turns now, and then we go onto power and it immediately starts a bit of understeering, and then you need to give enough power to make the rear tires slip a little. See, when I go onto power, it starts plowing a bit, so you need to be aggressive with that. But only on the Porsche. Other cars have much more built-in rotation on power. There's different versions, yeah. There's one with ABS, there's one with ABS and TC, and one without both. And the car doesn't just auto-rotate here into the turns. You need to aid it a bit with some braking. Give the front some load, because of course the car does not have an engine in the front. So the front tires can take a little extra to produce the grip. And then you get these very smooth, high grip slides in low gears. Generally, of course, Heusingwald is correct in that the throttle model isn't ideal. But also, it's not as much of an issue, because the driving situations that you normally have is full power and no power in a lot of cars, especially on the road cars. There's very little that you actually do with throttle modulation. So it's kind of not that important what the engine does when you're in 20, 40, 60, 80% throttle or so. And it's not like the car does something completely wrong or so. It still drives. So it is something that will be addressed, but with the performance and the bugs people have, not being able to play at all, it's certainly not going to be highest on the list. Clay Steven, you shouldn't read the definition of early access. You get access to a game that is in development for a lower price. And if you are not willing to go through the pain of early access, wait. In the 90s, this was free? No, don't think so. You know, you're also living in a different financial environment where you are kind of validating your product early on in the process, so you can still change the direction, because later down the development line, it's very different to change the general direction of the game, because everything is so dependent on one another. So when reception now is bad, you can still adjust course. Production budgets for computer games are also much higher these days than they were in the 90s. You know? I think optimal pressures should be around 26.5, similar to ACC. So there are no, for the time being, no big changes in that regard. Is this doable with controller? I heard some who said it was fine, but I haven't tried myself. Optimal pressures for the... Oh no, we had that, sorry. iRacing so broken, yeah, a bit too fast, okay. Just don't buy Nordschleife on iRacing. Let's get a car that's a little more alive, perhaps, than the Porsche. It's probably going to be the Mazda. Any tire degradation or fuel load change over a stint? Yeah, not yet, but of course this is going to be standard stuff, right? There's no way around things like that. This is obviously going to come. But in terms of tire wear, for example, and tire damage and things like that, I feel we really want to add another layer to it, not just do the same as on ACC or so. So we want more complexity in that regard. But I've no clue when there's going to be the time to dig into that. I think the devs are very, very much working full time already. So things come when they're next on the schedule. Am I the new RS? Certainly not. Are we maybe going to see potentially even more performance in slicks with even lower pressures? I do not know. This could be an outcome, but I'm not sure. It all depends. Like these are things that are very dynamic. If you change one thing on the tire model or one value or so, then other things change as well. And it's very hard to predict where we're going to end up with something on the very front end, so to say. What's the ideal camber going to be? What's the ideal pressure going to be? It all depends how all the different pieces of the tire model then fall into place. And I guess when you just change one thing, the pressure could change, the camber could change. So there's no, hey, we target this kind of camber to be ideal. This is not how it works. So I'm going to do Mazda, because I feel this is one of the most agile cars. And of course, we're taking the sequential version. Ours Tribute Edition. Do you know when there will be particle effects and stuff like that added? I know the main focus on other things, but I think particles, they generally exist, but I think they were very performance hungry. So for the time being, they're not there. Why do you think we need to turn off all the default values on most of the FFB settings? I don't know, you don't need that. The FFB is coming straight from the tire. You do not need to add any damping, in my opinion. Will all RS will shave and put contact lenses? This game just sucks in the moment. Oh, okay. I don't agree. Does the DLS on triples work now? No, the patch is like this patch is in the making, but I have no clue on the timeline. Oh, I jumped so many messages. It's damage model. I mean, it's certainly going to be somewhere what we have in ACC or so. So different parts can get damaged, but I'm not sure about the visual side of things, because as you know, with car manufacturers not liking that, and also it's rather complex to actually do. Have you done any telemetry analysis to start getting some insight on the model? Yeah, of course we do. We look into telemetry in the like more active testing phase. But currently, like the live build has no telemetry output in that regard. There's no motec output currently available, so to say. But in general, of course, when we are going into the deep testing of what the tires do and seeing if things are working as expected, say we want to see the tire temperatures behave that way, or this is what we see in real life, and we want to see if our model now replicates that, then of course we look into that data, because you can't just look at a widget. So we record that, we look into it, we see how it goes up and down, and then we can decide if that's the way we want to see that. And if we want to make adjustments to that, if it goes up down too fast, goes up and down too slow. Mazda has monster brakes. Yeah, but of course the car is, what does it weigh? A couple 100 kilos with fat slicks. But agree. This car selection page is a bit messy. I don't think that's a final UI. Like, UI is also version 0.1, so to say. Everything you see, kind of expected 0.1. 1060 has the flames. You have it up in flames, yeah. You get FFB at 0 cause you use wheel standalone program to do so. What? 488 lower pressure car was nicely rotating on those pressures, locking into its yaw, but higher pressures will still were very grippy and as fast, if not faster. That could be, yeah, could be something. We'll see. Unpolished alpha, blah blah blah. Preview test was a split second where you could spot scratches on the paint. Yeah, I think some, but it's kind of on the level of ACC is what I'm expecting, but I actually do not know what the plans are. You put some vibrations, FFP settings. No. Like, you want to see my FFP settings just so we can get this over with? Here's my FFP settings. And we probably don't even need that. So, this is all. It's all on 0 if you don't see that. And the gain is on 50%, whereas in SimuCube driver item 20 newton meters, I believe, or 18 or something. Free money from tutorials. I think everything is going to gain you money. Like, it's not going to be, or at least I don't think the plan is to be make it super hustly and lock everything away. But I don't know. These things are gonna get adjustments anyway down the line. Is it true Kunas hired you to avoid being roasted upon release? No comment. Actually. Tips, guides on better performance. I'm getting 40 FPS. Colin, best place is probably Discord to talk with other people, share your settings, or the forum, and somebody on similar hardware maybe solved something and found a combination of settings that you need to do. But I heard quite surprising performance for some people. Some with a 2080 Ti getting 120 FPS, so it's certainly doable. Is that how real steering wheel works? So just someone, there's this big kind of spread in the sim racing community that wheels either do everything and only everything real life steering wheels do, or they actually deliver more information that is kind of being stripped from you being in a simulation, which is kind of G-forces and how the tires load up and sorts of things. And bringing some of that back in the force feedback is something I'm very much advocating for, but it has to come from the tire and suspension. Like, it's no fake effect or anything. It just kind of needs to highlight what is coming through the front tires at the end of the day, or through the front suspension. And then it needs to be reflected in the wheel. And maybe currently the tire's just not communicating that. So sit and wait. How real steering works is pretty shit. Like, if you sit in a real race, in a real road car, and you drive it around the track, you're not driving it with force feedback or what the steering wheel does at all. Like, zero. You're not looking into what the steering wheel is trying to tell you in a real car, road car specifically. Probably more so in a race car, much more so in a go-kart, right? The steering wheel tells you everything because it's a very direct connection. And but in a road car, what you're getting on the steering wheel is essentially half a newton meter of basic resistance, and that's it. And if you do that in sim racing, it's essentially undrivable. So you need to get things from the tire and the suspension into the steering wheel, generally speaking. Okay, what exactly? There are choices, I guess, or there are design choices. If I'm driving a car with assisted steering, yeah, but what is assist, or what do you mean assisted? The power steering, or But you're going completely blind if you're driving a car in the simulation with IRL force feedback. Then you just have no feedback at all, basically. And that's just not gonna work, and then people will complain even more. Yeah, but Hatis, make sure you're not setting the texture pool size to low, because that's gonna give you lags. Put it on medium or high. So, let's do some Mazda driving. I don't think even we need to change anything about the setup. I think you set it to Ultra on proper hardware, but you don't set it to Ultra on not proper hardware, so to say. I suggested, and I think I agree, is just to give like a VRAM size to the slider instead of calling it low to Ultra. You can't have assisted steering settings. This doesn't exist. You can't do that. At the moment, you can shift without even using the clutch. No damage done to the gearbox. Yeah, there's no damage yet. That's all. But I don't have a clutch, so this is not... It's not too important. I know there are the people that do the AC1 in there who are going to do the free roam. And they will want also the H shifter to be correct and everything. But for me personally... Oh, there's something grainy here. And it's, I get something on the Mazda force feedback is actually different compared to the other cars. Well, it has a very large basic resistance, so to say, that is always present. But if you let the reel go, I mean, it's always going to self-correct, right? So if you can't feel oversteer, I don't know, just let go of the steering wheel. It's gonna be fine. The MX-5 would have clutch and H pattern. There's actually two versions of the MX-5 Cup, and this one is the sequential version. You can Google it. We also only discovered that. My favorite car so far. It's hard to tell. I think it's probably Porsche Cup, Mazda, somewhere there. For me, it's always the race cars. Well, I do like the road cars in general, and for example, the Alpine, I think, drives very close to the real-life counterpart with how it rotates into the corners of the throttle and how it starts understeering from like 4th gear and something like that. Because we had a chance to drive the Alpine as well in Italy on a track, and was very interesting, like super agile, small, nice car. And for me personally, probably the car would only need another 50 or 100 horsepower, but not much more, because then it becomes too quick kind of for what it is. Well, the MX-5, you can in the menu, you can choose the MX-5 in a sequential shifter version and the kind of default H pattern version, manual. I have a trouble keeping up with the chat. Oh wait, now that I'm... now that people perceive me the new RS, which I'm not, I also need to change my driving style. Don't be mad with me, RS. So, what inspired the stream, sorry guys, was I was just watching Yuri Castorp on Twitch earlier. And he was completely overwhelmed, like, with how the Mazda drove. And it's very weird because he said he can't feel the oversteer and when it regains the grip. And all you have to do is, like, let go of the wheel. And it's all there. So I don't know what different settings you can have that it screws it up so much. But for me, it's kind of impossible to spin it without... on purpose spinning it.
So I, yeah, kind of loaded it up to check, but it's all working fine for me. Maybe the force feedback is just too low or so. But I mean, even if I try, the car's going to self-correct. There's no way to crash it. Andre Patrizio. Like, can somebody take what Andre just wrote there, frame it, put it on the wall and over all the meme discords on Simracing, that the Porsche locks tires more than an iRacing? Like, what has happened to Assetto Corsa? Wasn't it the full braking fake realism sim, and now all of a sudden it's more difficult than iRacing? What happened? I'm pretty sure that on the Mazda in real life, if you let go of the steering wheel in a slide, it is certainly going to autocorrect. Of course, this is what steering wheels do. Rodrigo, if I do that, my wheel goes left and right uncontrollably, and I have the same settings as you. Okay. Yeah, so I have the Simicube, and maybe... take that to Discord, Rodrigo, okay? If you want to join my Discord, post the settings. We'll have a look later to figure out what might be going wrong there. But the steering wheels are all so different somehow, and it's weird to me that some people get oscillations. I literally, I don't even, not even on iRacing I get oscillations. I have like, maybe in the Simicube driver I have like 10% or 5 to 10% friction and damping in the Simicube software. Maybe that prevents the oscillation, but here, like, it's not even close. Yeah, but hey Niels, by the way. thanks for causing headaches with the throttle model there. My wheel is, I mean, I don't have a display, so I guess in terms of direct drive wheels, you can consider mine not heavy, but I have the Usher button box with a 30 centimeter rim on it. I guess it weighs a kilo or something, maybe a bit more. So I would say it's not a light wheel, and especially when you have, I don't know, the Fennec Tech stuff, I think this is lighter. Maybe the big displays and heavy wheels that people have these days, this is causing the issues. Maybe something for Gomez Sim Industries to look into. Just make a lightweight displayed steering wheel that doesn't oscillate. But Andre, I don't know. Oh, you mean the braking? I think you just need to get used to it, because I've done pretty decent times in the Porsche, even with ABS off. I think you just got to get used to it. And the main thing that you need to do when the ABS is off, need to make sure that you get rid of a lot of speed in the straight line. And when you turn in and unload the front, you really need to make sure to have low and careful brake input and not on it too much, because especially on the Porsche, not having a lot of weight on the front tires, it's pretty easy for the tires to lock up, I'd say. So you need to bring the car in a situation where it can take the input and respect the limits when it can't. I could make a comparison between sims for sure, but there's only iRacing and EVO that have the MX-5 Cup in a kind of OG version. That's not a mod, right? And of course old AC, but... It's weird, Korlavika, because as I say, I find it so natural. Like, I can just have the car slide and correct it even, if you're quick enough. So I'm not sure what the issue is with the force feedback. Like, I don't know. It's impossible for me to screw up. So I'm just, it can only be settings, or that we have completely different expectations of what the steering wheel is doing. I shouldn't have caught that just there, by the way. I was surprised myself I didn't spin. Well, it's road cars. They're not going to feel sharp, most of them. Rennsport is better. I don't have race room installed anymore, though. Nice Moritz. Moritz, I see a video. Real life Porsche Cup driver shares opinion on Assetto Corsa EVO. Nah, not Tortellini. It was just a Giga reaction. Where were we? Oh, just right here, right? We're right there. Look at it. It's just the skills I have. Ah, I can tell you what it is. I can tell you perfectly what it is. Look at it. Look. Look at the maximum steer lock. That is probably... Wait, we need to catch it earlier. I think this is almost 40 degree or so on the car. I could imagine that the real life car has a bit less, and then you can't catch that. Zolvik 007, I probably think the same about the throttle model as Heusingveld, but he can tell you himself. The thing is, most of the time we're going to be full throttle, right? And in these situations, everything works fine. And you'll probably have edge cases where, yes, you would see different behavior IRL, but I don't think it's a priority right now. And it's not, certainly not the biggest issue of the game is the throttle model. It's something that I would like to see correct for sure. But it's something that needs addressing down the line. And nobody in Kunos is saying, hey, this is correct. They are all wrong, arguing against it. They are aware, but the kind of, you can imagine the list of things that they're going to address is a bit large right now. So that will have to wait for the time being. Well, there's so much chat. Tires are too edgy at the moment. I don't know. Not more performance related. Yeah, it depends. So. It depends what people focus on. I guess when people can get the FPS out of the game, then they talk about the driving. If they can't get towards the driving, they talk about performance. Hallo Ralf. Aus Effhain, tja. Schade, ich bin ja nicht mehr in Berlin. Well, else is the biggest issue. I don't know, performance probably right now to make it work on a wider variety of hardware with lower specs, but also I guess getting triple and VR to work just to shut these people off basically, or let them experience the game. Because right now I feel the whole performance stuff and VR and triples, even though like it's only a small percentage of the user base that actually has it, kind of skews the overall feedback quite a bit. And I wish when performance is sorted for a wider range of hardware, then people can actually look into the driving and complain more about force feedback. Carl Man simulation ways. I need to find your other message. One sec. Well, right now issue I wouldn't say so, no. We know things are work in progress. Nothing that you see is considered finished, right? So it's not like, hey, this is finished, and then we're sitting there, oh my god, how do we change it to work somewhere near realistic? So I don't think we're in any topic we're in a situation like that. So I would say that there's no huge issue. Maybe other developers have different perspective, but I would say that we have decent driving early on in the game. Is a good start that we can build on. $20, $21 to 9 support. Yeah, Crack. I mean, if you have something like that, I can only say just post on the forum that there's currently an issue so that it's highlighted. The suspension is brilliant. Yeah, now that we just went through the chicane, we can actually have a quick look at that. Wish I would have the slow motion mode from the dev build, but we don't. At least it doesn't explode anymore, right? Which is an improvement. I feel, if anything, we might even have too much damping now. Nah, ACC is not shit with curbs. ACC is shit with end of suspension travel, which you often have when you go over curbs. Now I think I have it now. Like when you play iRacing and the car oversteers, it almost breaks your hands, because then it almost goes like to full force oversteer on the steering wheel as soon as the rear steps out. And maybe that is something that iRacers are used to, that whenever the car oversteers, it kind of tries to rip your hands off. And I feel here in EVO, and especially the Mazda, this is more subtle. Like, it's there, the force feedback goes into the other direction once the car starts oversteering, but the force is not as high as it is in iRacing, for example. So maybe you need to listen in a little more closely with your hands when you're coming from iRacing to kind of get a feeling for what is already oversteer and what is subtle and what is big oversteer. Maybe that's the difference. But Core Vaitica, in which car? Because on the road cars, there is no sharpness to be expected because they are road cars. And yeah, here, for example, the suspension doesn't come through as much, but it seems very Mazda specific. If you are on the Porsche, or I think the Porsche mostly, there you get the bumps much sharper, for example. Or was it is it the Alpine even? You can't drive cars that don't bite, but road cars don't have much bite, and I think this is all coming from iRacing being extremely responsive, and this is just not the case in, well, in any other game really. So are you complaining about the force feedback, or are you complaining about the tire response, which is much sharper than ACC already? Like, the cars have insane bite, if you ask me. Let me get a different car. Like, they have too much even now. You can drive around the track with 10 degrees of steering. The low speed grip slip angle thing people have complained on LMU. Well, the car just skates in LMU like it's on low speed ice, kinda. Still a bit too stiff. I don't know, we can just kind of straight line the chicane. You think that's too stiff on a race car? The FFB is numb. Yeah, I don't know, because we're just on different ends of the spectrum here somehow. Artificial understeer. Well, here certainly is no artificial understeer in EVO. What do you mean mortal inputs? Yeah, but when people complain about ACC's low response force feedback, they're actually complaining, just not saying it, about ACC's unresponsive tire. Because the force feedback or the tire directly translates into the force feedback on the wheel. And if the tire is numb and has a wide window, then there's nothing coming to the wheel as well. And this should be quite different now, I'd say. Well, you can turn the steering wheel 180 degree at 200 in the straight, but it's not going to go too well. And it depends how fast you do it. It matters a lot if you allow the tire to build grip and then change direction, or if you do it very fast to not allow the tire to ever build any grip and then just plows with a lock differential or whatever. It depends on the maximum steering input you're getting with 180 degrees. So some cars will go into understeer, some cars might spin. So, what is a responsive car? I'd say the Alpine is. So we take the Alpine for a spin. Track-wise, I don't think we're doing a change here. Like, this is... Imola is a great track. Now, I agree kind of with some sharpness, but I think this is coming naturally once we have different cars and maybe we're just changing the suspension and things like that. So, I'm not too concerned. ACI EVO Motorsport. You forgot some GT7 in there. Oh, it is 7. Sorry, my fault. M4 is also responsive, indeed. Yeah, turn down the damping. As I said, you don't need any extra sliders except the gain. Oh, this car is slower than the Mazda. Need to adapt. We need to turn off the TC as well. Uh-oh. We're too quick. Come into hot into the corner and correct the slide with the throttle. That would be the wrong pedal. What does the vibration slider do in the settings? I believe nothing. At least on my wheel. Again, all the settings, put them to 0 except the normal gain. You don't need any of it. Yeah. So, flick it in, it turns. We don't need much here. This was already too much. I don't know why this is why people say this is not responsive. I do something like this. And we can spin. Like, there's certainly no lack of response on my end. Sometimes I wish... What are EVO devs doing about potential meta issues? I don't know. These are things that... Like, you're not developing a game and thinking about, like, hey, what do we make the meta? What do we want the best setup to look like? This is not how it works. There are so many moving parts. The best setup is going to be somehow a product of everything that you don't see coming. So right now, we don't know what a meta is, or if there's going to be one. Is this considered as going too hot in the corner? Yeah, confusion I think is the biggest part, where people have weird controller settings or people expect weird things of road cars, or I don't know. With a low FPS maybe that kind of confuses things as well. Yeah, it varies insanely. There are pro esports players with proper direct drive wheels who struggle to find good settings for some reason and don't feel anything. And then there's people on the G29 where I would say you can't feel anything in the first place. Where people say, hey, I feel everything now. This is the best game ever played on the wheel. Yeah, even if you have the car perfect, people will complain, so it doesn't matter to get them right. I'm going way too fast for a road car. Like, you can see me struggling as well. I played this game a fair bit. Sure, mate. I'm trying to answer as much as I can, but I've never seen as much chat on this channel, probably. Like, how's this car not communicative and super alive? I don't know. This is probably the most fun car I got to drive IRL for some reason. You don't always need 500 horsepower or something. Sometimes much less can work. And I feel in this car, the way how light it was, and I don't know how it's set up in real life, it came across super nice. And I would also say that all the cars we actually got to drive do feel a bit better in the game as well. It just shows. So when you drive the Giulia, for example, you should notice that as well. And the same with the Alpine, and I guess the Abarth or the Hyundai i30. All of these we got to drive and push a little on the track, and then we had a much better reference how they should behave. It gives you more options to dial it in the last bit. And it was quite insane with this car, for example, in particular, where when you just go off the brake and off the throttle and just turn it into the corner, that it would very nicely step out with the rear and yaw into the corner and give you so much confidence. And in the rear car, even anything that isn't, I don't know, second gear or something, you would, I think we made the setup here probably a little too conservative now, but you will mostly brake before the corner and then trail the throttle a bit, because with the throttle you would control the amount of rotation you're getting in the car. And on the rear car, you're not driving like you're in the sim. In the sim, you're always trying to be, okay, let's see how fast we can do this corner, and if we die, we do it again. In real life, you're always going from the opposite direction. You're going in with some speed, thinking, okay, this probably has some headroom. So you slow down before the corner, and then you go back into the throttle to kind of manage the last bit of speed until you're comfortable with the car, which you rarely get enough time on the real track to really get fully comfortable with the car. So you often have situations where you're slowing down more carefully and you reach your slow speed in the corner too early, and then you play with the throttle to go around the turn. So this brought us into situations that you would, I don't know, kind of not go through normally when you're just driving in the sim. Ooh, some understeer. That's also what caught me off guard in the real car, and it was really from 4th gear onward, the car does not have enough torque to get the rear round on power. And while I was able to kind of manage the car on throttle in the first 3 gears, once you're in 4th, it just plows. And I feel we get that across quite nicely here. What's the F word? 4th gear is the... 4th gear is the Achilles heel of that car. Because then when it stops being agile. I think, I don't know what the track names was anymore, but I got out to the main straight, 4th gear, and you're thinking, well, this is easy. And suddenly you start feeling the understeer creeping in, and the car not rotating anymore, and then you lift quickly. But then the car goes into full turn-in mode as soon as you go off the throttle, right this here, and they're like, oh fuck. That's the reaction you have in this car. And it's super agile. Actually, you know, I normally despise the front wheel cars in general because they don't belong on racetracks in my opinion. But we also drove the i30N, and surprisingly that car is super agile as well. Floaty. I survived turn 1. Why? Seen people sinking into sand. Maybe we are gonna get safety cars and such. I think the sinking into the sand is down to people having manual clutch, but not actually having a clutch, and then the engine stalls all the time. But if you have auto clutch on, you will get out of the sand, no issue. Rude opinion on front wheel drive? Sorry, Yannick. Maybe we're gonna have the Megane. Gran Turismo Obliterator. Probably not. I think it's too... I think this game is probably too difficult for Gran Turismo people when it's already too difficult for iRacers, so I don't know. I don't think it's gonna grab them. Hot take. Watch back Yuri's stream. Well, I'll not comment on all the opinions shared here. On-off throttle, understeer, oversteer behavior extremely pronounced in EVO and multiple cars so far. I think it might be down that the rear-wheel drives sometimes have 600, 700, 860 horsepower in terms of the 296 Ferrari, for example. So yeah, this car will oversteer when you put the power down, no matter what, if you turn off the TC. And then if you have low-powered cars, but with a proper differential that don't have enough power to slide, then yeah, they will start understeering, which you will get on the Porsche on a conservative setup. You put the power down, it locks the differential, but it keeps the grip. It doesn't really slip the rear tires, and then you start plowing straight. And this can come, I mean, in race cars, this is super sharp, this difference. Once the differential locks, you have an entirely different car. Yes, Niels, yes, like, nobody is discounting what you said. We're just saying it's not the most important right now. You can drive the car in a different throttle position, right? You can get the same effect. It's just in the wrong place, kind of. Does that make sense? You know better than I do. Could you pull up some drifts using the Toyota? Actually, yes. Let's do the i30 real quick. And go into... what's the mode? Board mode. N mode. That's the N mode. So far it doesn't do anything, but I think the plan is to have all these displays also come with actual changes in the settings of the car. I think on the 296 you can see also that we have the curse thingy, like the electronic shite. You can see how much it deploys and when. And I think it might do something like that. If you've seen it, share it with our devs, maybe. Is there a key to find the hide the HUD? I'm not sure, actually. It's actually cool how this car turns in with the rear end on full throttle, right? Or given it's a front-wheel driven car, that's extremely good. And even on the brake, you'll find the rear stepping out, and you can turn it in and then just put the power down. It's gonna self-correct. This is so cool. Honestly, I despise front-wheel driven cars to go around a racetrack, but this car is actually agile. And it's so agile when I drove it on the Nordschleife, and I probably should actually get towards making that video. I have the footage lying around here. Is that we had an instructor going ahead in another i30, of course, and the faster you go, the faster he's gonna go. So it's a bit of a communication task, really, to communicate to the instructor ahead that you're confident with the car and that you can control it, and so that he will accelerate and pace, yeah, speed up the pace a little bit. But even even then, he would always kind of have very degressive braking, right? Go harsh on the brakes in the straight line, and then towards the corner, he would have mostly done all of the slowing down. But I think it was really good and important, because when you're driving in the group, you never know how slow the slowest or how overwhelmed the worst of the drivers is. And if you trail this car into the corners on the Nordschleife, this happens. This is absolutely not advised on a track that has walls left and right. It just turns in when you're coasting, basically. And if you trail additionally, it's turning in even more. It turns in much more than the rear tires can handle. So it was very important, so to say, to slow the car down before the corner, then slowly start leaning into the corner, already back on power. I think going into Tiergarten, so after the long straight on the Nordschleife, we were doing something like 240 or 250 even in this car. So it comes down there really, really fast, which is an insane speed for a road car in general, especially when you're doing it on a racetrack. Probably even have to use both pedals here. The brake to slow down the car and the throttle to stabilize at the same time. Gives you Porsche vibes, Tortellini, does it? So let's try this here. This is a tricky corner. So half throttle, brake, and now it's stable. Or more stable. And I think back on Live for Speed, when we were driving, it was called the FXO. Actually pretty similar. It wasn't a hatch. Had like a normal long tail, so to say. A normal limousine car, front wheel driven, 240 horsepower or something like that. That's what it had. But we had completely open setup in Live for Speed back then. And we set the car up super aggressive. And yeah, you always needed to be on throttle basically the entire time. Because the car was turning in so much, and they were always transitioning into the throttle as we trailed off the brake to keep the car stable. FXO is front wheel driven. You mean the XRT is rear wheel driven. And the, yeah. You don't tell me things about Live for Speed. I have a couple 10,000 hours on that. Does this sim have a wet line? Yes, I believe the result is going to be that there, in some situations, we will see a wet line. I thought the gray hair was giving away the age. I haven't played it since, I don't know, 2009 probably. Actually, I played it yesterday, so that was a lie. We're floating over curbs, but we have a road car with I don't know how many centimeters of suspension travel. This is not an issue here. Like, this is not a high curb for a road car. Only in race cars these things are an issue. Road cars, they can eat anything. And also think of that Imola has actually removed the anti-cuts. Well, thankfully we have all the assists off in this car. I want to show you, yeah, let me show you something, because when you drive along and you look at the sausages, then you think, hey, they should kind of upset the car, they should be super tricky and I don't know what. But if you pause, actually, the game when you're on a curb, like, maybe that's too much over the curb, let's try this one. If you change the camera, look at how freaking large that sausage is. It's almost as wide as the entire car. Like, it's not some small anti-cut in the harsh bump for the suspension or so. This thing is huge. okay, in size. So there's also a very smooth way to go over it, and it's also rounded, right? It's not a sharp edge. Look how big that sausage actually is. I think that sometimes when you drive along, it looks much narrower and sharper and everything. But when you look at it from a different angle, you can see it's quite a huge thing, right? At least I believe so. Guys, I need to quickly pee. I'm gonna leave you for a minute with a replay here, which I think I need to restart in order to have the TV camera going. Let me quickly run, and then I think the next car we wanted to do was, somebody said something already. What was it? What was the car we were going to look at next? I mean, I have tried all the cars, guys. I'm test driving them. Toyota, exactly. It's the Toyota. Be right there. All right. Yeah. Man, I felt like a horse. It didn't want to end. So doesn't it look beautiful? We also need to change time of day, I believe. We're missing out on some nice graphics here. Hey, mate. Project Motor Racing with the 12 trillion hertz, just to define the piston position in the engine, to give you that extra special detail on the throttle pedal. Maybe they get the throttle model right. I'm going. Oh, you know, this is going to be so savage when Project Motor Racing comes out, with their hyper precision. Finding the position of all the pistons and valves in the engine, and then Niels goes on to assess the throttle model, and it's just the freaking same as everywhere else. You said that though, Project Marketing Racing, but yeah, I agree. I mean, they're still beating that old List of Storm. That car does not deserve being treated like that. Every time Ian Bell starts doing a sim, then some engineer who is parking the List of Storm in a garage goes like, "Oh my god, here we go again." But yeah, I think maybe Project Motor Racing answers the questions if we should still stick to like the atomic model with things circling around things, or if we actually go string theory and that is more accurate. We're gonna find out soon. 2029 or so is the release date. Oh boy, that was a bit too good. We can customize this a bit though. And initially I said like, I don't care for this customization stuff and things like that. But you know, when you get things like, hey, actually let's change the exhaust tip color. Well, that's a detail you don't see anywhere else. Yeah, there could be, Niels, right? Even if they make a good sim, my main question is, where in the niches are they going to put themselves in? Historic cars, historic GT1s from 90s, early 2000s, that a niche and a niche and a niche that could actually be served and people would care? I do not know. Are they CAD modeled? So I think what you can share is, and I mean you can see that already on the Camaro, for example, that of course there are interchangeable parts on the cars. So in order to do that, you also need to 3D model those individual parts to actually exchange them, and to have this whole tuning and car parts aspect in the game. The parts that you can change, they are individually 3D modeled, but I don't know if it goes down to the piston and valves on the engine. Okay. But yeah, I mean, we can open a few things here and see, right? So we can open front and rear, and you can see there's, in this dark trunk, there's something is modeled, I guess. Or here in the front, there's a bit. I don't think it's, I don't know if it's hyper detailed. Like, I think the detail goes down a little here compared to there we have some light. I think that inside the engine you can see it looks like it's filled with foam, so I don't think it has the same amount of detail that the rest of the car has, but part of it is there, I guess. Assetto Corsa Universe introduction? I have no clue what that is, sir. If the game doesn't simulate dirt and dust floating around in the car, I'm not interested. We'll get to that point probably. Okay, we wanted to... Did we want to actually change the color? We didn't, right? Rich green. So we can have minty. That's mint colored. Let's a matte finish. That's probably a bit harsh. Satin. High gloss. Chrome. Oh, there we go. Wheels. Real color. A bit darker. There we go. We have a car. I think we're done here. Leather color. Okay. We can't change. It's a red camel brown, but it's caramel brown. Oh, Gago's gonna hate me for that. Well, that's the color it has now. What about the influence of your soft body mass moving around in corners? You mean the driver? Is Misha in the game confirmed? Probably he's hidden as an Easter egg on some grandstand or so. I don't know. Time of day. Thank you. Good pointer. We'll have to see what is actually like evening on whatever track, because the tracks are all at different times of the year, right? So there's no global, and the tracks are in different places on Earth. So not the same time of day is going to lead to the same lighting situation. So let's try a Suzuka GP, perhaps. Toyota, Suzuka, does make sense, right? Is any cars I can use my H shifter? Yeah, you should be in general be able to do that. Yes, on the cars that have an H shifter. Oh, that's the time of day that doesn't work, I believe. So we need to go probably a couple minutes earlier. Perhaps we need to restart the game. There's some time of day that throws the game off. I think on Bathurst it's 6:30. Now we know on Suzuka it's 6:10. Let me quickly reboot. I think they all have real time weather. Well, I don't know, because you need to build in the database and connect it, blah blah blah. I think it's a specific time of day. There's something happening with the light where it throws it off. So I think we want to go half an hour later or something. 6 is end of shift. Yeah, I think Bathurst it's 6:30 here. Apparently it's 6:10 or around that. It's not. Hello. Oh no, we're back on the up art. Where's my GR? Oh no, we lost the color scheme as well. That's unfortunate. Let's just, yeah, that's got to be sorted once the back end is live. So let's go 30 minutes later and it should work. See, it works. Vehicle setup. We wanted it to drift right, but it probably works like that. It should work. No need to adjust it. That's some times of day I think still need adjustment. Like this is too extreme, and I feel the view setting. Like if you check where the horizon is on screen, it's like the upper third or quarter. So we probably wanna sit a little lower in the car. Bring up the pitch a little bit to bring it all center. No, not that one. Sorry. The distance, sit a bit further. Like if you want my rule of thumb for view settings, just to feel comfortable, not about FOV, but where to sit in the car. I just want to see the center of the steering wheel with a logo, and then mostly for cockpit view, that's fine. Low FPS, I have 120 flat right now, with perfectly steady frame times. Pixel therapy, so I don't know why, but I think it all comes down to why people are bad in other games. Is always that when you're very deep into one game and all the way the cars behave in a certain game are kind of enshrined into your perception, perception, what's the word? Expectation. Then the issue you're having is that all these tiny things that are going to be different in a different game, like how much sliding the cars were going to tolerate, how quickly they are losing and regaining the grip, and even tiny changes there can completely throw you off when you're used to something else. How much yaw the cars are going to tolerate, how quickly they respond, how much counter steering you need to do to catch a slide, and how quickly you need to react. I should turn off the TC maybe. And how quickly you need to react again to go for to catch the tank slapper, right? So how much counter steering do I need to allow to keep the slide alive but not get the tank slapper? If I'm on iRacing, like, oh fuck, then I'm losing it into the other direction because I have expected a different kind of grip regain. I've expected a different kind of counter steer to be sufficient. I've expected the steering wheel to do a certain things, and maybe the tank slapper to happen at a different speed and things like that. And all of this, when only a tiny thing of that changes, can throw you completely off. And that's why I also, if I go from ACC, or it was like that in the past, I feel it's more easy now, but if I went from ACC to iRacing, I was also completely thrown off because the game literally does everything different in small things. Can you make a call to another player? I doubt. We can change the display here, obviously, but I think we are yet lagging the center screen adjustment. The broken throttle model kills your brother? Oh boy. Did we already... the 13 throttle gas pedal torque? Let me see where 13 is. Let's try 5. Oh, it's gonna stop. It's gonna stop at some point. See, 13 is just too much. I wouldn't do this. It is per se more realistic. I think it does road cars a lot better than iRacing does, and I think it does... Oh no. I reset the ESP. There's one issue right now when you change the performance mode on the car, which is what you do when adjusting the display. It does put the ESP on as well as part of the sport mode kind of you're in, or normal driving mode. And there's no button to turn off the ESP, so right now... Okay, now the ESP is off again. Well, iRacing has the Pontiac Solstice. Yes, it's realistic, but the issue is it doesn't right now tell the user that the ESP is back on until you feel it. Oh yeah, the Jetta, the TDI power. So to get rid of ESP is off by default on all cars currently. No, ESP breaks individual tires to bring the car back in line. TC only slows down the driven axle. What is ESP? I think you'll probably call it ESC in English, sorry. It just, you know, helps the car when you're doing too much with it. For the road, for the racetrack, it's not so good. He disintegrated. Yeah, and I think in Germany it's like electronic stability program. So and then in English it's stability control or something. Oh, that's gonna end up beautiful. Maybe. How are the brakes in this game? They break. Yeah, Eric, well, I think the plan is to implement that changing the display mode is in line with the actual performance mode of the particular car. But it's not connected yet fully. Oh, like the sound you just heard there suddenly. I did not hide the UI. I'm on a 49-inch screen, so the UI is just in the corner here. You just don't see it. That's the problem. When I brake with ABS off, the wheel locks at 40%. What do you think? Have you encountered the same thing? You mean which car? I think in some situations that's going to be accurate. Guys, you're too focused on right and wrong. And you're thinking it's fundamentally different as well. In order to go fast, you need to be subtle with the brakes in all games. This is actually a nice drift car. Lacking power in fourth now. My resolution settings, it's just a 1440p for the 49-inch monitor, which is 5120 or so. Strong brakes that lock up at say 75% input are a great thing. Some cars in AC1 really suffer from just press 100. But most of the time, even when not using ABS. Yeah, maybe some brakes aren't strong enough, but here, I think... Let me see if the ABS engages if we just slam it at high speeds. There we go. From the initial, like when it dives to the front, it has quite some, I guess it has quite some load for a moment there, and then it starts locking. It's a road car, I think. This is probably normal. Brake bias ways. Oh no, we overcooked it. I've already made a video, or I made comments on this whole braking discussions. When you ask two different real-life drivers driving different cars, they are going to give you different answers. There are as many real-life drivers who say they're just slamming the brake in a GT3. And there are as many real-life drivers saying, well, you need to ride close to the ABS and blah, blah, blah. And others are saying, no, the ABS is so good it sorts you out perfectly. And you can just slam it and the car is going to sort you out. And then there is no discussion whatsoever that you need to trail into the corners in order to go the fastest. Like, this is not... There is no debate except in some people's heads. Because you appreciate lies. Ah. And no GT3's cars here in EVO just yet. How do physics compare to original EVO? I mean, we're 10 years later. The model was developed further already in ACC, and now this is the next step where things are taken even further for EVO. So you will, I think, overall, so in how you would perceive this while driving is that the cars generally, they behave more, in more subtle ways. The cars change more often throughout the corner. They show more detail in their behavior. In AC1, you would, I feel the cars are a bit stale. They don't have as many different ways to behave, so to say. And it's rather almost a static experience compared to EVO. I feel there's much more detail here in what the cars do and how they move and things like that, and what you do as a driver. It's much more alive overall. Oh no. What wheelbase do I use daily? So the Simcube 2 with the Simcube active pedals, and I'm not changing around, so always that. Bye, Niels. Thanks for stopping by. We'll watch out for your next review. So you think 1 year after the release, the game to be playable is normal? Okay, he doesn't understand it. It's unfortunate. I even came across one person that said the menu on Assetto Corsa 1 with Content Manager is the best menu you can have. And I was like, wait, Content Manager is the most awful menu you can have, because you have two top navigations, then you have a top navigation on the side, then you have a navigation here and there, and you have 10 layers deep of settings and controls. I don't know, it's way too overwhelming. And this is, of course, the thing you see in EVO right now. That is not the UI that is going to be shipped in the end, right? This is, now you get access to all the functions the game has right now with a button. That's what the UI is, but this is not like designed. New thing bad, yeah. Content manager is very clunky, yeah. It's also just everything slammed in, but it also doesn't have design, so to say. I had VRS in the past, but now I have Simicube too. Yeah, I think like what people achieve with AC1 is great and all. And the options that you have with the game, the variety it has, and the freedom that you have, I get that. But for someone who wants to do multiplayer, like, you have to be an actual nerd, because you need to make sure you have the exact list of the 32 mods installed with the right version in the right order in order to join the server, and then it just might work. And I think this needs to be, there needs to be an easier way to do that stuff. Recommendations for force feedback: turn everything off except the gain, the normal gain slider. Ignore the rest. Put everything to 0 except gain. Nah, not all sim racers are nerds. Like, especially there's a lot of AC1 people, I guess, or no, there's also a lot of ACC people, or a lot of older people as well, who get around the PCs, but they don't want to fiddle with whatever, right? They need something that works with a visual interface that does everything. Old and nerd, but yeah, you're a very small target group. Hazer here. Yeah, I think the ability to manipulate the car at any given situation, that is where EVO sticks out a bit. If the car is understeery, you can turn that around into oversteer. If you have oversteer, you can bring it into understeer, or you can just drive it neutral as well. I think it's the flexibility that you have to go around a turn and change the car's attitude is that's a bit unique. Man, I'm gonna release him if that's okay. I'm gonna give him 10 minutes of thinking. Maybe his brain starts working again. Sometimes you just need to breathe and reflect a little. Then maybe he recovers. Wouldn't bet my life on it. No, definitely not. But maybe, you know, we can just accept it for the time being and he'll come back stronger. Your mom was able to keep away from losing it. That is, I think that's good. So what do we not drive so far? I think we're going to pass. Oh, somebody kept mentioning the RS3, so I'm going to do you that favor, okay? Let's go RS3 for a moment here. Nah, Zahir, I'm trying. I mean, every time I look, I'll grab something, but yeah, it's difficult indeed. I'm fine though. Have you put your profile on the Simicube TrueDrive online profiles yet? The thing is, I'm running the latest Simicube tuner that is not yet connected to TrueDrive and the cloud anymore, because I don't know why. But I'm just on the Simicube 2, I'm just using the ACC profile. And in game, again, 50% gain for me and everything else 0. As easy as that. Block mods that contain real brands like... Let's see. Like, I have no clue how this is going to play out. And I personally just very personally, I do not need any mods. I just need a good game. I think what is an actual achievement is that in EVO, front wheel driven cars turn. I don't think I have experienced any other sim with front wheel driven cars where they actually turn instead of just plowing in every possible situation. But here, you can play with these cars. I mean, this is all wheel drive, okay? This is not, sorry, no front wheel drive, but still. Nah, man, in AC1, we just drove that TCR Hyundai, and whenever you put the power down, it just goes straight. Yeah, they do turn IRL. That's the thing. But I think also the brightness is just in a certain time of day where they kind of not dialed down correctly with the ambient light. Are you liking it? Well, I certainly do, because I find myself driving this despite it not having multiplayer, which is something I didn't quite expect. But I mean, I'm also driving it for professional reasons, being I need to make sure the cars drive well and don't have any bugs. So but no, I think in terms of driving experience, it's the first time I feel it has something actually new. When LMU came out, you can feel R Factor 2. When R Factor 2 came out, you could already feel R Factor 1. When AMS2 came out, you can feel Project Cars. When, well, iRacing feels like iRacing for as long as I can remember. And yeah, I think this is the first time that like Gran Turismo 7 feels probably the same as Prologue and 5 and whatnot. It's all very similar and permanent understeer in Gran Turismo in all cars and things like that. But I feel EVO is the first time where the driving has a new nuance to it, a kind of new feeling. Of course, you can feel the heritage as well, but it's distinct from AC1 and ACC. Oh, wrong brake board. Not good. Yes, you can blow tires. I think it's temperature related right now. Okay, it might understeer a little bit. No panel damage or suspension damage? I don't think yet. But I think that there's going to be damage in the way that if you crash, you're gonna have a bad race. Maybe you need to throw the car around a little more and be a little more aggressive, and then you can get more of the torque vectoring. But it definitely comes through here if you force it enough. Maybe not all situations. But I also haven't driven the RS3 in real life, so difficult to say how it would be for me. it's still like very front heavy, right? Yeah, I think there's going to be more options for the Porsche Cup eventually. It's just everything is trimmed down a little now. Because the more we activate, the more potential sources of issues there are. Oh, wrong button. I wanted to go through the display modes, but I don't think the Audi has any yet, right? Yeah. The clickbait is good, isn't it? But no, earlier there were some iRacers streaming who struggled massively keeping the car on the road, and I just don't understand why. Well, I do, but they should be able to manage. S2000, good point actually. Very good point. I think we're gonna go with the blue leather. God, this is ugly. Oh no, why does it kill the message, or was it not the bot? Was it yourself? Actually different time of day. Let's try different time of day. Somewhere around here. The land of the rising sun. The blue is ugly, not the car. Why is the UI so bland right now? Because it's version 0.13. I don't think you can put the roof up. In the Ford Escort you can change the sunroof, but I don't think in the S2000 we have an animation for the roof. Or a 3D shape? I don't know. What is funny that initially I complained about the refresh rate of the dash in the car. And then I checked the real car and it's shit too. Yeah, this when you go off the throttle. Wait, where it was there in high RPM? This very tail happy when you just coast. And you don't steer enough. Like when you force the understeer through the steering, then it's gonna be stable. But if you just go off throttle with a bit of steering. It was in the downhill right-hander there, where the rear just stepped out. Well, maybe the car is a bit low. One sec. No, this is on maximum. One sec, I'll bring it up. Just a second. Give it another 10% or so. So the car is unique in EVO? Is that what he's saying? Is it unplayable? Do you ever race in VR? No, not really. Like, especially it makes streaming near impossible for me. And I need access to my keyboard and mouse and buttons on the steering wheel and the stream deck. I need to see everything. And VR just makes that impossible. Will there be a game manual at some point? I'm not sure. Like, probably gonna need to rely on YouTube guides on general guide to AC Evo or something. Generally, you're driving cars around and you don't need to think about anything for the time being. You don't need to adjust setup. You don't need to adjust much at all, I would say. So, yeah, should be kind of easy, except that the driving may be difficult because it's a simulation, especially when you're coming from heavy arcade or you haven't done any sim racing before at all. Then I guess sim racing at first feels endlessly difficult, but once you get the hang of it and you let the car do the work and don't try to force it around, just respect the physics a little, that things have weight and tires have limits and you can't go the fastest all the time and just crank the wheel and it's going to sort itself out and things like that. Once you start being more careful with inputs, then yeah, you get warmer with it. Like, the car doesn't power oversteer. You need to work on throttle to make it oversteer and need to play with the weight a little. Like here, it's hard to get the rear round, but if we throw it a little, we can have the slide, right? Well, let's say even in Mario Kart, you're following somewhat of an ideal line. So if you got that down already, you have a good starting point. But of course, the grip limits are going to be slightly different. Yeah, barely enough torque to keep the rear wheel spinning, right? Need to... Well, Apex and Mario Kart, I'm not sure, but you're surely coming outside, inside, outside, no, to be fast, or am I wrong? Oh, that was too much, actually. Can you money shift? Well, once there's damage, I think you can. Right? You can definitely shift down too early, but the damage is missing. So this would probably be a full money shift. Was it only 20? We can do more. 16 and a half. Piston space program. I wonder if Project Motor Racing could still define the piston position in that situation. Red Turtle Shell DLC. Like, I'm not against such elements. I think it would be great fun to have Mario Kart in a simulation. Just go around Suzuka in Honda S2000s, collect a couple stars to get a red shell, shoot someone. It would be a lot of fun, I'm pretty sure. And you still would need to be able to drive cars. Oh, Robert, you got mansplained there. Oh, the scam simulator. People are funny. Poor Robert. Now that AC EVO has game economy, I guess we could literally have a money shift. Yeah, it's 0.1, guys. I'm pretty sure at some point the clutch is going to work like it should. Shouldn't be that much of a big topic. You just have to see, I think the majority of people is not exactly driving with an 8-shifter. At least it's my perception. Well, that car is probably fun in a race. So I'm looking really forward to single-class multiplayer and all the slower cars. Because you have a long time on the straight where you can, yeah, kind of think about life while you're going side by side for 130R in a convertible without airbags and brakes. I have no idea what the considerations for fixed setups are. I think the entire multiplayer doing and planning is still early. Voice chat and multiplayer, I hope not. Yeah, let's see, what cars have we not had a look? Let's do one more or so, and then we can maybe call it a day. There's only so much to say. Let's maybe go back away from the trash, back to actual game. What is there that needs to be talking about? So there's the M4. Oh yeah, actually we probably have to do the Camaro because that car is slightly insane. I wonder if we do the 1LE version or just a normal. They're both insane. How's the P Cup doing? I think probably one of the best cars in the game. Whoops. Comes with a mullet. Any spoilers what you can do with your first car racing wise after you buy it? Well, I think you can set up a race and drive it. But I don't know about like Gran Turismo style gameplay. Out of the loop there. Is Assetto Fiorano actually different in terms of weight? I'm not sure there's anything with weight actually. But then again, I know very little about that car in general. Wasn't it just paint and some electronic shenanigans or something? Yeah, maybe lighter. I don't know. But don't they call the light cars... what do they call them usually? Superleggera? Oh, that's Lambo probably. They did, but the weight was not part of the evaluation. Would I notice? Hey Nor, that can happen, I guess, in early access. Maybe just load delete your documents folder. So go to whatever, C users doc blah 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 username documents, and then delete the ACE documents folder, and maybe that solves it. What an animal of a car. I don't know why people say they can't feel the weight. Like, it's trying to rip my hands off with information. I just have too much force feedback actually to control oversteer nicely, because it changes from 10 newton meters into one direction to 10 newton meters into the other. But I think we're also on the we're on the hypercar tire now in the 1LE version, so we have a lot of grip as well and should be rather agile. The way it regains grip, changes direction and all that's very sharp now, despite kind of being large and heavy and soft in the suspension. You still have that, but the tire is very responsive. The whole chassis is kind of not. It's a weird combination now. Well, you can drive the tire kind of choppy, but the whole chassis of the car is just not up to that level, really. And the engine is so blunt with the raw power. Well, it's an American muscle car. It is floaty. It does not have brakes. Let's see. Look, it's doing 260. It takes a while to stop it, but I think it's pretty potent from 100 to 0, for example. If my left leg would be strong enough to keep the brake on 100%, I'm still running 70 kilos, I think, which is going to be a problem in road cars because the braking zones are so much longer than in a GT3 that the leg is really getting tired. Oh, that was a sharp change of direction. Oof. I dare you, Robert. Yeah, the thing is, I change cars around so often. It would be very weird if I changed the pedal all the time. Then I wouldn't know where I'm sitting input-wise anymore at some point. I mean, already in ACC brakes fade if they are too warm or too cold. Maybe it's not pronounced enough.
stop.
Is it possible to not drift? Well, let's try the TC. Yep. But I think it also depends what kind of brake there is, right? If you have those carbon brakes, yeah, they might need some temperature. If you have just steel brakes, they are probably not as temperature sensitive. Well, I can't say that, Radix, of course. No need to drift. It's just about a neutral slide. Oh. That's actually a problem. The TC is trying to prevent the slide, but it can't when the angle's too high. Then you actually need it to give you some power, probably. In-game test driver. Let's just say I'm a test driver. Yeah, let's try the ESP, okay? I'll change... Well, can I even change the mode in this one? Maybe it doesn't have the performance mode. Let's see. Nope. ESP does not seem to be on. Okay, let's do a serious lap, okay? And let's try to get it around in a fast way. Yeah, I think they're this is probably going where all of the cars should have ESP. But I find it interferes in a weird way that is a bit hard to predict, and then the cars just changes direction very suddenly. So let's see, normal lab. Tyson could be, yeah. I always end up changing the camera as well a little. That's still considered on track. Oh, and it takes so little throttle for the swing to go sideways. Oh god, bit deep. That sounded weird. That part of the dynamic track stuff is just not yet on. I think. Because we can't select temperatures yet, right? But expect that all to be at least like an ACC. So what's the time? This wasn't too bad. 210. Just about 210. 210.9. Sorry, I should have brought this over here. you needed a reference. Stop! Yeah. Those brakes are suffering. I mean, they're pretty warm, probably. S2 Exige at some point. I have no idea. I mean, in AC1 there were a good amount of Lotuses, right? I mean, AC1 was kind of Lotus and Alpha and Ferrari Simulator, no? Will Softlock come at some point? I hope so. Yeah, sure. I think it's on the list. Well, we're not talking about data mine stuff here, are we? You know, some of these things could easily be just placeholders without anything to them. I guess in game development, you sometimes just put cars in the games hoping that the whole license stuff and whatever decision is down the line will turn out in favor, so you don't start building the car when you need it. So you just put it in. So whatever you see there in the data mining, you might be disappointed that some things might not actually be in there in the end. So don't take don't read too much into it. It's probably the best shot you have at not being disappointed at some point. So we did not do the Alpha. We didn't do the the BMW. We didn't do the Ferrari, but maybe we do that another day, huh? I think we want to do. Let's look at race cars tomorrow or so in particular. And let's do the EVO, or the Challenge EVO. Because I feel, especially in that car, you can feel the differences to ACC very well. In-game FFB settings, super simple. Everything to 0 except gain. Like, don't play around with this. They put too many settings. You don't need any of that. DOR. So just gain is on 50%. I guess the camera's over it. Gain is on 50%. Of course, the steer lock is the same as in the driver. Everything else to 0, and you're fine. Here on my SimuCube 2. Maybe on lower end wheels, you need some damper gain or dynamic damping, but the rest ignore. Yeah, probably the best shot is to not read anywhere about this. Go to good sources, like myself. Again, you will not need much. The force feedback works. Just put the gain to whatever, put your your wheel in your wheel driver to the maximum it can do, unless it has 30 Newton meters or something. That's probably too much. But the rest just, yeah. You only need maybe dynamic damping and damper gain. Those can give you some extra resistance, but in fact they're going to make they're going to dampen the force feedback, which is why the slider is called damping. Okay. Gain is 50. And the base is at 18 Newton meters, I believe. I know some do still have cheap wheels, but get good, guys. Invest. You gotta put it as high as your wheel can handle and as low as you can handle. The lower it is, the less information you get. The higher you put it, the more likely your wheel is overwhelmed. And no, gain should be adjusted in the game, please. Don't adjust it on your wheel. Put your wheel to the maximum as a start to not run into any situation of clipping or so. And then just lower or increase the gain in the game high enough. Yeah. What dynamic damping? I mean, you can pretty easy test it. Put it to 100%, throw the car in the slide, let the wheel kind of catch the car. And you will see that this motion of the car trying to catch itself is going to be damped or slowed down, whatever you want to call it. And the lower you put the dynamic damping, the more the wheel is allowed to do the actual command coming from the game. Depending on your wheels. Yeah, true. Still Recon 8 Recon. The thing is, in ACC, the SimuCube bass can get pretty loud when you go over curbs without recon filter. So I just wanted to bring down the noise level a little bit, so I increased the recon filter. The difference I feel in EVO is pretty little. You will only feel recon filter impact over the curb vibrations. Everything else is pretty much same, equally crisp as if it was without, really. Yeah, again, ignore most of these settings. Use the gain, use the on low end wheels maybe, or mid range, use maybe the dynamic damping a little bit and the damper gain. Ignore all others, okay? So this one, okay, this one, okay, ignore the rest pretty much. Like, I don't think the steering filter does anything. I don't think the vibrations do anything. At least I couldn't find a difference. I don't know about the true force because my wheel doesn't have true force. So, for the time being, thank you all for tuning in. That was insane numbers. So we should probably do this again. Look a bit more into EVO, especially going to do the race cars a little bit. Go a bit more into the way they behave different now. I think they're much more agile and much more detail happening during the driving. So we can probably take a look at the Ferrari challenge there. And then we'll see. I wanted to do a comparison video between the Ferrari challenge in ACC and the Ferrari challenge in EVO, because they actually make for a really good comparison. In ACC, the car it's okay, but not great. And I feel in EVO, it's quite nice to drive. Allows the driver to have a lot of impact on it. So that does for a good comparison. Just as the Porsche Cup, really, because they're kind of polar opposite. In ACC, the Porsche Cup auto rotates way too much all the time. The rear is always loose. And here in EVO, the rear is quite planted. So if people say the games or the cars behave similar, I don't know. I don't agree, I think. Because they really behave quite different. And yeah, as for LMU, I don't even have the latest content because I get it via the subscription on Race Control. And currently, I have no interest in getting that again, honestly. I think they did some update yesterday and there was something about tires and grippiness and blah, blah, blah. So I drove a couple laps and was like, it's the same. But probably if you drive more, you'll feel this more nuanced as well. But the general LMU feel just still there. And for me, that is, I don't know, doesn't work. Well, I'm not Gregor. I certainly don't know. I feel when I drove it a bit, then I think the Porsche GTP and the Ferrari GTP, they were kind of different to all the others. They had more detail to them. And once the downforce kicks in, they drive nice. But everything slow speed in LMU is kind of weird. As they say, floaty. But yeah, everybody feels that about any other game, so it's probably not a good term to use. It seems to differ a lot what people perceive as floaty. All right, guys. This been great. So see you very soon, probably, with more likely, most likely more AC EVO. There's going to be the LFM series next weekend. Not this one, next weekend. This is when it's starting. So then we're probably going to see ACC as well. No other plans so far. Maybe get to do some content. And collect your questions, post them on Discord. If they are not, if they're not out of my range of knowledge. Or stop by the next stream. So for now, bye.
Do you think GT3s will go to EVO? Probably sooner or later there will be a GT3. Which and how many? I have no clue.